Welcome to The Right Mindset. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. Welcome to another Saturday. Is this Saturday? This is Saturday. Welcome to another. No, this is Sunday. This is Sunday. I apologize. Sunday it is. Welcome. Yes, today is what we call Sunday Write a Book With Me Day. From concept to completion. We're about to get some wild stuff going on here. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited because we are officially on plot point 10, I believe. But we're going to try to do 10, 11, and 12. And of course, before we get started, we're obviously going to wait for a few people to jump in, join us, as they say. Before we do that, let me get everything set up. We'll get it set up. I'll go to get it set up. All right. As you know, every Saturday and Sunday we do a live video, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which brings me to the exciting conclusion that, look, it's all about us and you and writers and education. So with that said, how are we going to approach today? I don't know. I'm pretty excited. We're going to wait a couple minutes. We're going to wait for a few people to join the party, as they say. Let's wait a moment. Who's in the world today? Do. Yeah. We'll just give it a moment or two. Give it a moment or three. All right. Let's see. What's up? All right. So today, what we're going to go over is obviously the story. We're going to talk about the sci-fi story. This is a behind-the-scenes kind of look into the process to show you how to outline. Maybe you already have a way to outline. Maybe you don't outline. Maybe whatever the case is. But you might be writing a story, or you may be wanting to write a story, but you just haven't gotten to that point yet. And you're like, how do I do this? What do I do? And that's what this series is. It's really showing everybody from beginners to people who have been doing it for a while, even people who haven't been doing it. And they're like, where do I start? And if you've been watching this series, whatever, season, something, been watching me, you'll know that what we've been doing is we went from brainstorming to dancing on the streets. So we did, as we say here, we did some brainstorming, we did some character arcs, we did some short form outlining, and we are currently on the extended outline / or M-0 draft. And as you know, we break up stage 4 into 2 parts only because the 0 draft is really just an extended version of the extended outline, as you will see as we get closer and closer and closer. So as we're waiting for a few more people to jump in, I'll just continue explaining to anyone who's new here, or if you're watching the video for the first time in this series. The goal is obviously to get through all these steps. Beta, alpha, and the break probably won't happen, but I will go over what you should do for beta readers and what you should do for alpha readers. And hey, flowers, welcome to the show. Hola, ¿cómo está? So yeah, but right now we are here, which brings me to this. So if you've watched the first couple of videos in the series, you would know exactly what this is and how we kind of broke down each plot point. And now we're getting ready to DK Cook. Whoa, what's up? And we're going to be trying to waves enthusiastically right back at you. Thank you for joining us on a lovely Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So today we're going to try to do plot point 10, plot point 11. Let me actually get those set up for me. Beep, 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 boo. Because my goal is to get here. My goal is to get to what are we on? 10, 11, and 12. Because last time we were here, we did all these. All right. Now, what do we got? 6 people here? All right. There was something I wanted to go over before we started. Oh, last week I was talking about transitions, like moving through characters and stuff like that. Um, Actually, maybe if that person comes back in and they ask that question again, or if they bring up transitions again, I'll show it. But I do want to go over Act One real quick to show you basically what we were doing. If we go back here, whee! What's going on here? My mouse is acting weird. 1 second. All right. Boop. All right. So when it comes to the how should I say where is this? 1 second. I want to bring in something so I could show you because everything's about learning. It's all about learning, right? It's all about learning. All right. So if you noticed, Act 1, 2, and 3 are broken up into 3 sections. So Act 1 gets section 1, 2, and 3. Act 2 gets 4, 5, and 6, right? So forth and so on. Okay. And if you look at each section, they get 3 plot points: 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, and 9. Right. And what that does is it creates a natural rhythm within the narrative for you as the author before you even get into the complexity of writing long form narrative, before you get into all the big stuff, when you're like, hey, I'm going to write all the prose, I'm going to write all the immersive stuff. Right. So before you even get there, you could see if the foundational elements, the skeleton of your story is strong and solid. So if we're looking at the science fiction story, if you notice, I created basically smaller stories within these beats. So section 1, we basically set up Laura Olivia. Then we have the gang leaders, and then they're escaping. After they escape, now we put them in a new situation. And that new situation is they're dealing with the ship being in danger, right? Then it's they got to land, right? And then after they land, or crash land, I should say, will they, won't they kill her? But then the gang leaves, right? So now the gang is gone after this. So what do we do with plot points 7, 8, and 9? Now we move into a new short story arc, which is ultimately she has to find a way to fix the ship. So she has to get a job. She is working that job, also trying to figure out what she's going to do with the ship. And then that leads to her basically, because the ship was taken under custody and they're looking for her, it leads to her ultimately being arrested. So when you approach your narratives and if you're outlining or not, think about how you could create smaller story arcs within that story that sort of build and create momentum to move you forward. Because that's really the goal of what you're trying to do with a narrative. It can't just be things are happening. Not only do they have to be self-contained in their own right, like, when you're creating the ordinary world, it has its rules. So it's quote unquote self-contained and we can't disrupt it yet, right? But what are we learning in that ordinary world that we can disrupt in plot point 2? Or what can we learn in the ordinary world that might come back, in 4, 5, and 6, which we do that, right? In this right here, what do we set up in the first plot point? Hello, how are you today? Angel Faye. Welcome to the show, my friend. So the other thing we set up in plot point 1, which doesn't seem too major, is the idea that her translation headset has it's a little fritzy. What's up, bro? Buonasera. Oh, buonasera. What do we? Oh, salve. Down the weather. Oh yeah. The way, I don't know if the weather's bad over there, but it's kind of nice here. It's a little cold. Welcome everybody. Though. Welcome. But all I'm saying is, ultimately, we're setting up a lot of stuff in the ordinary world that we can play with, not only in the first act, but so forth and so on. But the other thing you want to do is try to look at a beginning, and middle, and end, and you could use the plot points to create a beginning, a middle, and end. And then at the end of plot point 3, where are we left? Well, now we're in a new situation. So you have to set it up, then you have to challenge it, and then there's a resolution. And then you do it again. You set up the new situation. She's trying to get a job. She's in the city. She's on a planet. And then you have to challenge it, and then there's a resolution. But the resolution also has to move the narrative forward. So remember that. I got the flu and wear a mask around my girl. Hey, listen, our first job as parents, right, is ultimately to protect our kids. And first off, sending much health and hope for you to get over this flu. And of course, it's very nice seeing people do right by their children, as they say. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to bloop, bloop. I already copied and pasted this to here. So let's go down to DJ. You are most welcome. Day Nata. Do. All right, here we go. So we're going to create a scene for chapter 10. Or not a scene, but a movement. All right, so. Sorry, my OCD is just doing what it does. All right. So I'm taking the notes that we originally wrote in the short form outline, and now we are going to do what we can to ultimately turn this into a movement, right? Let's see. This will potentially become its own chapter. Laura, showing Laura being brought to the prison. Oh, yeah. All right. So even though this is going to be her coming to the prison, it may end up being a chapter. Right now, I'm not really too concerned on that. So while I'm working on the extended outline part of it, not necessarily the zero draft aspect of it, I'm just going to write out plot point 10 as just one big thing. And then we worry about chapters later. We worry about that stuff later. So this is going to be Laura Olivia being brought into the prison and going through the stages of being set up into a cell, being processed, etc. Now, the other thing that I need to do is I need to establish that she's in waiting as they develop the case, right? We gotta get that. That's very important. That's very important. I'm gonna actually put that in red as a note to myself. The other thing I want to do is I'm actually going to, as they say, when you dream a little dream, you need to have some fun. So, basically, as 10 introduces the protagonist to the new world, right? So introduce the protagonist to the new world, their new circumstances. By the way, I am making the new world a prison in this situation, but remember, the new world is just circumstances. So, the new world, if we're taking place, the whole story is taking place in a cabin in the woods. The new world wouldn't necessarily change locations; their circumstances would change. So that's all that a new world. The new world is new circumstances. But what is this? Have you named the love interest? Not yet. We will get there, though. I assure you, we will definitely name the love interest. And I'm not leaning towards Thomas. However, self-inserts. So 11 is going to be the fun and games. This is where we slow down the narrative a little bit. This is where we say to ourselves, hey, let's take a little break. Let's learn a little bit about the characters. And then 12 is ultimately where the protagonist compares their current world, which in this case would be their prison life, far away from their life, with where they were from the beginning, also known as the old juxtaposition. Oh, juxtaposition. Anyway, with that said, there is a note that I need to I have to add it to something else here, because remember, we changed it where she wasn't necessarily arrested and placed in prison. She's being held in prison until they figure it out. So I want to create a thing where because they can't find the gang members, they're going to just throw it on her and accuse her of it, which also would incite her to, I need to break out of here, and we're going to figure a way out. So it brings in, also it allows the deal to make sense, to earn the deal when they're like, well, if you could get us the gang members, you're not involved, right? All right, so let's see. All right. All right. So the warden tells Laura Olivia that because they can't find the gang members, or they can't find the people she said were involved, that they're going to try her with the case. Blah blah blah. Right? Even though the stolen items were not found on the ship, her ship identification was matched what they saw back on planet on her planet, name planet later. All right. Okay, now we're also creating a new plot, a new point that I have to seed into the story. Now, as you can see, as I'm developing new ideas and stuff like that, I'm obviously adding to the outline. And that's the brilliance of writing, is that you're not restrained by what you have written. You're allowed to adjust, change, and clean things up. If I had written this out as a full chapter, it would take a lot more work. So that's why I do it this way. All right. All right. So people involved. All right. Oh, now we could go here. All right. Well, okay. While Laura Olivia is being processed, she says she had nothing to do with it, and that there was a gang, and she's not part of the gang. All right. So they ask her where they are, and she says she doesn't know, etc. All right. So they lock her up. Can I spell that right? Lock her up. I don't know. My eyes are killing me. All right. So they lock her up. All right. Now, again, there's usually a beginning, a middle, and end to the way I kind of like write out plot points, but that could all happen in one chapter. It could happen in 2 chapters. It could happen in 3 chapters. It could happen in 4 chapters. Just depends on how much information I have to put into a moment. Like this moment, if this moment takes, and I don't think it would, but if it took, 3,500 words to get out, I might not add more to that. I might be like, well, that's its own chapter, And then this one, let's say the second beat only does 500 words, and then the third beat is 1,000 words. And I was like, all right, well, the second and third beat could be its own chapter. But what does that mean, though? That means that the plot point itself is not contained into a chapter, but chapters have these beats and rhythms, and they have a purpose. But once you get to a certain word count within a chapter, is that chapter fulfilling that purpose? Is there a lot of fluff? Is it not moving quick enough? Like, these are all questions you have to ask yourself as a writer. None of them are right or wrong. It's just it's just what you're looking to do with your story. But there are certain moments in time when you're writing where you have to start asking yourself these questions. Should I break this chapter up? It's getting to the 3,000 words. What am I doing? Is there a clear beginning, a middle, and end to this? Is this 3,000 words? Am I spending my word budget wisely here? And is that saying that maybe you shouldn't have 3,000 words? No, it might be saying, hey, maybe I should break this up into 2 chapters. If there's a clear beginning, a middle, and end, that you could be like, oh, wait, it kind of actually, this beat concludes right here at, 2,000 words. So why don't I take this 1,000 words on the end and turn that into its own chapter, or whatever the case may be. Being a writer is about making choices and thinking about that for pace reasons, creating rhythm, right? You want chapters to hold someone's attention, pull them through the narrative. But at the same time, there is a certain point where what would be interesting to the reader may not be interesting when it's connected to something larger. And all I'm saying is, if I write, let's say, a good, strong, really strong 3,000 words, but the chapter is 4,500 words because I added a chapter break within that chapter, and there's this other scene. And because that other scene is within that chapter, it actually slows down the experience and takes away from what we just enjoyed with the 3,000 words. An example of that is I had my alpha readers reading the first epic fantasy novel, and there's this series of events that happens where there's ultimately a trial, right? And not like a fighting trial to go from being a non-citizen to a citizen, right? Or an adult, I should say, going from a child to an adult within this community. And it starts off with a one-on-one fight that has a very important kind of message and character development thing. And then it moves directly into the trial. And, I'm writing it, so I'm biased. My brain isn't connecting the dots sometimes. Sometimes that's why we get alpha readers and beta readers. And every one of the alpha readers is like, that first fight is really good, but it just, the chapter's so long, like, it was getting long. So I broke it up. And when I wrote it out more, when the betas readers got to it, they liked it because that first beginning, which wasn't really that, maybe 1,000, maybe 1,200 words, it really felt good because it was like an isolated moment that really hit home. Then they could breathe and they didn't have to keep reading. They could stop. They're like, oh, I finished the chapter. And then when they came back to the next chapter, you get this big, wonderful moment that has this choreographic dance of character development and fighting and all this other stuff. And now it has more impact. So that's what you should be looking at when you're writing and working out. I know I'm saying a lot and I ramble, but when I'm working on the plot points, I don't think about that as much, but it could come into play. You know what I'm saying? I'm already thinking about it. Laura gets into a situation. She is being, oh wait, I already, this, boop. All right. Is nervous in her cell with her cellmate, and then dinner is called, and she's brought to the cafeteria. To the cafeteria. All right, because every prison scene needs a cafeteria scene. All right, cafeteria scene. All right. Okay. Laura doesn't know what to do, where to sit. No one will let her near them. She's a new fish. Fishy, fishy, fishy. If you don't know what that's from, it's from Shawshank Redemption. New fish. It's fat ass by a mile. All right. That's like one of my favorite movies ever. Okay. This will basically lead to the cellmate is in the cafeteria and tells Laura to come over and sit with her. This is a mixed prison, all species, genders, and different sci-fi, science fiction elements. All right, so that's important too. Okay, why? Well, we just did world building. Boop. That's all that is. That's world building. Not that I'm going deep into it. That's the other thing. Is like when you're world building, there's a certain point where you get Brandon Sanderson calls it world building disease, where like you just get stuck on like, oh, I got to work out the currency. How does currency work? And then you just get stuck on currency for however long. It could be months where you're just like, I'm working on the currency and what it is. And in reality, it's these little moments right here where I'm like, oh, I'll make everybody kind of fit into one prison cell. And that ultimately does the world building. That now I don't have to really think about it too much, but it's those little details that make your world feel lived in. It gives it culture, it gives it purpose, it gives it identity, things like that. All right, let's see. All right, now we're gonna do okay. This will be where actually Laura Olivia is asked how she ended up here, and she says she tells the short version of her situation about the hijackers, which brings or which leads her to think about the love interest. All right. And how he was nice, but he still was part of the hijackers. Hijackers. What are you going to do with hijackers? All right. Oh, look, say I had the note there, food eating situation, right? Okay. The food is not really her style since since Laura Olivia comes from a specific planet with a specific diet. What did I just do there? That small little detail does what? World builds. Okay. She has to ask if they have any. Laura Olivia has to ask if they have anything that she can eat. All right. They do. And she sits. Oh, while ordering it, a prisoner gets all up in her face. All right. Asking why Laura Olivia gets special treatment. Laura basically says that it's the only food that won't kill her. Laughs uncomfortably. Okay. First and foremost, why are my eyes burning? I think I need my glasses on. All right. By the way, if anyone has any questions while I'm doing this, feel free to ask questions about your writing. If you want to talk about your writing, feel free to in the comments. If you have questions about what I'm doing, obviously ask. All right. So Laura basically says that it's the only food. Okay. Beep. Okay. The food comes over, and the prisoner wants to know why they can't. Specific food. All right. Okay. The cellmate comes over and stops the situation from escalating. Well, she's tough and she's out of relief. All right, so we did all that. Okay. All right. And then basically, okay, everyone back to their cells. All right. There we go. Boom. That's plot point 10. All right. Now we got to go to plot point 11. This is where we get to take a little break. All right. Now, what is a little break though? What is the protagonist can take a break and have a little fun? If you've ever watched any movie ever, or watched or read a book, this is usually where the narrative sort of slows down a bit moment in Act Two, and the audience is sort of being brought into either learning a bit specifically about the characters, a little backstory. It's where maybe everything up to this point is sort of like articulated a little bit more. So in Pirates of the Caribbean, the Curse of the Black Pearl, if anyone hasn't seen it, spoiler alert. It's the moment when they go to Tortuga. Welcome to Tortuga. And Jack Sparrow gets slapped, and he's like, I don't think I deserve that, right? And then he gets slapped again. He's like, I don't think I deserve that, right? And they're setting up a payoff later for when he gets slapped by another girl, and Zoe Zandela, or whatever, Zoe. And he's like, I deserve that one, right? But in Tortuga, it's just fun, right? You see people drinking, you see the pirates being pirates, but ultimately what happens is Jack Sparrow says to I forget the guy's name, but the guy with the beard who's always telling the stories of old, that guy. And he's like I want to get the Black Pearl back. And he's like, how are you gonna get the Black Pearl, Jack? Right? And he's like, I got this guy right here. And he says that William, he goes, old bootstraps, son, or whatever. Chair keeps falling down. So what is the point of that? Well, as the little fun is we're learning a little backstory. We learn that Jack was the pirate, the captain of the Black Pearl. We learn that here. We learn that Jack Sparrow's whole reason for being in this moment is because he connected Will Turner with Bootstraps Turner, Bill Turner, and he's using him. So now it's without a shadow of doubt, the audience knows what Jack Sparrow is up to. We learn that Jack Sparrow is connected to that character he's talking to with the beard. I can't remember his name, but anyway, that character is in the beginning of the movie too. He's there when when little Will Turner is brought onto the ship, and Elizabeth Swann is there, and he also, his character's developed very quickly in that moment too. He goes, because he's the one that says it's bad luck to have a woman on the boat, right, or children on the boat, and but anyway, why can't I remember his name? But we're establishing history. Okay, so they know each other. Oh, this person was connected to them. So they left the Navy and became a pirate, right? So you're learning a lot of interesting backstories. You're converging old characters that were introduced and vanished in the beginning. Now they're coming back. So plot point 11 allows you to have that kind of fun. There's no one chasing them. There's no high stakes. It's just a beat, a breather, where you're ultimately allowing characters to sort of show themselves, but also at the same time, you're informing the audience of certain things. So that's something to think about when you're approaching the break. Funny games also, I believe when Luke is learning, when they're after they leave Tatooine, they're on the aluminum Falcon. What's that? All right. They're on the Millennium Falcon, and Obi-Wan is showing Luke the Force, and Luke has the helmet on, and he has the lightsaber, and he's like blocking the thing, right? And then Han Solo's like, I don't know if I believe in all that hocus pocus, the Force, and all that stuff, right? So that is there's no real high stakes at the moment. They already left Tatooine. They're heading towards what will ultimately become the destroyed planet. All this stuff, right? Alderaan. So it's a nice fun. It's a break. It's a little fun, and we're learning a little bit about Han Solo's positions, like how he looks at the Force, his lifestyle. We're looking at Luke learning the Force a little bit, which also we, as the audience, are learning about the Force. We're learning a little bit more about Obi-Wan. I believe that's the moment where you always let the Wookiee win. You learn that moment, right? So you learn a little bit about Chewie and the Wookiee culture. But it allows us to sort of get a little bit more immersed in the new world because we've already been introduced to it. But now let's get a chance to understand these characters and what is happening a little bit more. So that's another example. Sorry. How we doing? All right. Let's do this. Olivia is getting along with her cellmate, and they're talking a bit about life outside the prison and more of the romance plot. How'd I get here? Show the way they can contact. All right. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to make this a nice little moment. Okay. Let's do this. My wire's getting in the way. All right. So, all right. Laura Olivia is in her cell. The cell door is open because there's a word for that in prisons, but I'll have to think of that. The cell door where they just all the cells are open in the block and they're allowed to walk around the block if they want. But anyways, in a cell, but she doesn't want to leave the cell. The cell mate is outside the cell at this moment, and Laura is working on. Laura is concerned that she's never going to get home again. To distract herself, her line of thinking goes from replaying the hijack in her head and what she could have done different, okay, to her fantasizing out the romance plot of a story, which includes the love interest turning the hijack into a romance novel situation. All right. That's cute, right? Okay. Just making sure my spelling's terrible. Oh, really? Differently is the one I spell wrong? Okay. All right. It's like spelling cat wrong. Okay. How's everyone doing out there? Huh? We feeling good? Feeling good? Are you writing? Are you writing while we're working here? What's going on? How's it going? Let me see what's going on out there in the world. You know I love to hear from you. Ooh. Besides, I might start singing if I don't. All right. So what I did here was if you ever thought about writing like a backstory moment or like a memory, or you want to do exposition through the history, it's always good to connect to something. So for example, let's say I'm a character and I pick up like this little thing here, right? This little Telmorn figure, right? That's the first god in my epic fantasy is Telmorn Altanian, right? Anyway, so let's say there's a character and they find like a little miniature piece. And let's say the character is, I don't know, my age, 40 something years old. And they go in their room, their parents just passed away, so now they're walking through the house, and it just so happens the parents left the room as was, their kid's room. It's always sort of like the guest room for when he whatever. Anyway, so he picks it up and he's looking at it, and it takes him back to him playing Dungeons and Dragons or something with his friends. That's a really good way to bring up a memory, is you connect it to something physical in the present. It could be a sound, it could be a person, it could be a word, it could be an item. So that really helps. So what I'm doing here is she is in a cell. She's in a situation, right? This is the whatchamacallit, the wait, what's going on? Oh, yeah. We're going to learn a little bit about her. Wait. Actually, uno momento, por favor. All right. Okay. Oh, what do we got here? I take notes while I watch you as you explain your thought process. It sparks ideas about my own story. Later tonight, I'll use those ideas to build up my story. It's been super helpful. Well, that's especially with seating. That's really great. I appreciate that I'm able to, get those thoughts coming and create the ideas and get you thinking. Yeah, seating's always been one of those things where I'm so glad that somebody explained that to me when I was starting out. Because, be honest, it really helps everything get earned a little bit. All right. So what am I doing here? I'm connecting. Uh, she's in a situation where she's in the cell. She's like, I don't want to leave the cell, so I'm going to distract myself. That distraction leads her to replaying the hijack. The hijack leads to the love interest, which leads to the fantasy plot. And now, not only do we get a little bit more of her feelings on the hijack, but we get her feelings technically on the love interest, right? Which we're building on the character. We're having a little fun. It's also, we get to stylize the moment. So now when I'm writing in my head, what I'm thinking is I will change the vibe of the story, because now it's through, because remember, it's going to be in first person. Now she's living through the fantasy, so starts being written like a romance, sci-fi romance, right? And she's, I could even do like where she's like picturing herself, there, and the guy's hair is flowing, because remember the ship was damaged and they were working on the ship together. So maybe the hole in the ship is blowing, even though like it's dangerous, it's like whatever. The point is, the fun in games also allows you to play with the vibe of it. You could play it because she is a dreamer. She's just appearing and thinking of different things, which allows her, or allows us as the author, to mess with the story and the tonality of it, because it's playful, whatever. All right. Oh, here we go. What's up, bro? I've been doing a trial run with the 27 plot point outline with my boys over the weekend. They've been imagining a comic book story for the past 2 years. I figured it helps me practice. I love hearing that, because the 27 plot point outline is not specifically for one thing. You can use it for any form of storytelling, from television, which I have, film, which I have, novels, short stories. It could be used for game scripts and stuff like that. But also, what you're doing right there with the comic book, absolutely, absolutely, it's cool. I got myself pro writing aid the other day and have been playing around with that today with the SBM collab chapter. Ooh. Obviously, it's picking up much more than words. Yeah. Word pro writing aid supposedly has a lot more options and stuff like that. As you get to work it and learn it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it more and more. As do you like it or you don't like it, as you start getting a little bit more comfortable with it? Because everyone says you should have it. I've been a fan of Google Docs. I used to use Open Office, and then LibreOffice and all that. But anyway, and teaches them as well in case they are interested. Yeah, it's really great that you're using 27 plot point outline. You're working with other people, and it's good because they might see something you're not seeing. Once you guys are all sort of on the no pun intended same page, you could develop a better understanding and brainstorming those stories through those elements. Learning as I'm going, but just being curious, I put my new story through it too. I know it's too early to do editing on it, but I did it because I'm nosy. Hey, there's nothing wrong with being a little nosy. You know what I'm saying? You gotta break the machine and learn the machine, right? So as the chapters went on, it's so obvious how less frequent the errors were. I reckon your advice has been a positive effect. I must have actually. Hey, I take that as a compliment. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. That's the thing. Like a lot of what I talk about streamlines the narrative, but it also adds the complexity and does the connecting with the seating, and it really does help in a sense. But also the way prose are written, it's probably looking at it that way. I'm not looking at the AI stuff. Oh yeah, no. I'm remember, I talked about this on another thing. This isn't just for you, L. This is for anybody out there. If you're gonna use AI, like if you just fall into the use of I recommend using it for only a few things. A, research, but always have two sources. So if it tells you something, maybe look up another element of it and see if there's a matching idea. The other thing you should do, if you're going to use AI, use it to make sure what you're writing makes sense. And what that means is, like, let's say you write a passage or even a scene. You write a scene and you know what it is. You put it into the AI and you say, "Tell me, I don't know, what's an example? Tell me what the characters are talking about and what are their emotional through lines." And then it's going to come back and analyze the scene. If they say, "Oh, they're lovers," and you're like, "Oh my God, they are brother and sister." It means that you might have to look at your scene again, unless of course that's what you're going for, a Southern comfort over here. But you have to look at the scene again and say, all right, maybe the undertones are showing. How do I pull back on that? So it's good as an analytical tool, but I wouldn't use it as a writing tool in the sense of like, how would you write this scene? Or, could you write me this? Or, whatever. I need dialogue for, like, I wouldn't. But it's good to be like, another thing is, does it make sense? What is happening in the scene? And if it could tell you, and that's your intent, you're doing a good job. It's more like it's a, hey, there's an issue with the biz. So I'm looking and thinking, yeah, how can we write that in a better way? Absolutely, 1000%. Yeah, because it's our job to make the choices. And obviously your voice stands out through the choices you make. That's what I'm using with AI research or prompts. Prompts are okay too, as long as you don't use what they write. But some of the greatest, well, I'll say this, some of the greatest comic artists I know started by literally tracing comic books. And then that tracing went into them just drawing freehand the characters that they grew up tracing. And then that led to them drawing their own characters in those poses. And then right? And they developed their own style and voice over time. But sometimes a good prompt can really help you. And with writing, even if you take a paragraph from something that originally existed, just the practice and then write from that and create some ideas, that's really powerful as a writing tool. Even for ideas for design. Absolutely. I'm assuming the laugh was from Southern Comfort. I'm just saying. All right. I'm back with a hungry baby who's currently eating. I'm hungry too, actually, because muscle memory. We are flexing those brains. Though some people might say I don't really use my brain because I'm a wacko. The creation of new neural pathways is fascinating. Oh, with the with the electricity shoots and yeah, 100%. The brain is an amazing thing. I finished the prompt that I told you yesterday. That's awesome. Congratulations. I'm very proud of you. It's just getting anything out is definitely a challenge, and just to see that you accomplish that. Woohoo! Practice makes perfect, and sometimes perfect makes practice. And what that means is we think we are good. And when you feel that way, when you feel you are great or you are good, it means you need to practice. My grandfather taught me that. Oh, you think you're good at the guitar, huh? All right, time to show you pro stuff. And then he'd play something and he'd be like, how did you do that? I go, oh, and then he'd be like, I thought you were great. I thought you knew it. I thought you knew. So whenever you feel you've reached the pinnacle of your greatness, change things up, try new things, enhance your understanding of it. So little generational wisdom there. Okay. 637 words. That's really good. That's like what is that? That's like a page and a half. That's awesome. Congratulations. All right, so where are we? You know what? I don't think I need the cellmate. Oh wait, no, the cellmate has to come in. Okay. The cellmate this is the other thing. So getting out of an idea, getting out of a fantasy, getting out of a memory, getting out of whatever the case may be, you could either reuse. So I could come back to maybe in the memory, the character picks up the figure again and is looking at it, and then it fades around them the room, and then they're standing there with the figure. And now that brings us back to the present, right? So an anchor, right? It's always good to have an anchor. In this sense, I'm using the present anchor of the cellmate to pull her out of her fantasy world. So the cellmate enters the cell, pulling Laura Olivia out from her fantasy. I should say romance, fantasy. They tell Laura Olivia that she should get some movement going, or the cell will drive you nuts. Laura Olivia doesn't want to leave the cell. It's too dangerous. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. Too dangerous. Sorry, that's my Michael Jackson. I apologize. It's Billie Jean's not my lover, but the kid is not my son. All right. All right. The cellmate tells Laura to do whatever she wants. They ask Laura to watch anyone is coming. They need to make a call. This is where the cellmate pulls out a hidden device or method. We got to figure that out. Method for communication. All right. Okay. And speaks with their family. Gives them heads up, and that they've been behaving, and maybe their visitation rights will come back before the birthday of one of their kids, so they can visit. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Why am I doing that? I'll tell you in a second. I'll tell you in a second, okay? I'll tell you in a second. Wow, that's the only word I spelled wrong. I'll take it. All right. So the reason I'm doing that is because remember later, this cellmate betrays Laura Olivia in another thing. So maybe now we're adding some stakes to the thing. So if the cellmate does give up Laura Olivia later, they can see their kids sooner or their family sooner. So Laura says to them after they hang up, all right. Okay. So their conversation will reveal the following. They have a life sentence for murder that they say they didn't do. Okay. What else? Laura talks about her family and how she didn't do the crime she's in there for. They have something in common now. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So now I'm connecting them, right? There's a mutual understanding and respect. And also Laura talks about her family and wanting to get back home. She's a transporter and never expected life to get this crazy. Crazy. What do we got here? The irony of the situation with my boys is that usually they can't stop talking about their comic. Now when I start asking them, now when I start asking them for details concerning the plot, they go silent and can't tell me a thing. That is irony. I get it. You know why? Because sometimes it's easier to be like, to be passionate about the idea, but not necessarily understanding the specifics, I guess. Then last night at 3 in the morning, my middle child says, "Hey, Dad, let me tell you." All right. So, Ro, I thought you meant like your boys, like it's just me and my boys, like my buddies, my friends. But I understand now it is your kids. You're writing a story with your kids. I think that's amazing. Pantsers, you can't go wrong with pantsing as long as you understand this, narrative structure. You don't have to outline if you understand the structure. Like you could pants. There's nothing wrong with pantsing. But I love that you're writing. You're working on a comic or even just the narrative with the boys. Also, it's kind of. I'm a teacher, and I will tell you right now, teaching something helps you understand it more too. So it's very very effective. But that's really cool. I'm actually super excited for you and the kids now. That's I was excited for you and the boys, as in like I thought you were writing with your buddies. But now that I know it's a family thing, that's even more exciting. I love seeing that. All right. But they're doing it for themselves. It catches them using the device, which will lead to a plot later. And then okay, so we did a look at that. I knew we were gonna get to 12 today. I knew we were gonna do it. I know, but two of them. The oldest thinks it's too silly. Hey, listen, sometimes you gotta imprint marketing. You gotta let them see it a few times. But in Italiano, right, it's filia, right? Filio, dos filio, two sons. Mirigo? I don't know. I forget what. No, Papa's padre. Padre. All right. Okay, so let's do. Look at this. I'm pretty excited. I said I wanted to get the 3 plots down, and we're down there. All right, let's do that. Now, this is comparing their current world to their old world, or the beginning where they were at the beginning, and it's the old juxtaposition. Very simply put, it's them looking at they don't need to necessarily talk about the juxtaposition, but the reader, or if you're watching a movie, the audience, they have to see the juxtaposition. What is the major difference? Well, what we decided to do here is Laura gets into a bad fight and she's thrown into a holding cell. We're taking away all her freedom. First of all, her freedoms were taken away when she was thrown into prison, but now we're throwing her into isolation. She also beat up. This is way outside where she started, where she was just some happy woman who started a business. She had a good family and she wanted to be a novelist. And now she's in a situation where she's literally sleeping on a metal floor and there's screams around her. So we're not necessarily talking. We're not necessarily telling the audience, wow, this is completely different than where I was when I was at the beginning. You can do that. This can be a moment where it's literally characters just maybe you're writing an epic fantasy and they're sitting around a campfire, and this might be a moment where they're talking about literally the juxtaposition of their life. You can do that, but it's usually stronger to do what? Remember, show, sometimes tell. So it's better to show than it is to be like, yo, hey, look who joined us. Hello, Mr. Strike Boogie. Hola. By the way, I listened to your songs. Loved it. Loved it. I tried to leave comments on it like you can on documents, but it doesn't let me on the things. But I just wanted to say thank you for sending me that. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. I'm assuming you recorded and edited all that stuff yourself. So if you have and wrote everything, so very good work. Very good work, buddy. All right, so let's do this. Let's get into it. I'm going to try to get through this, and then I'll give the floor to everyone for some questions. So let's do it. All right. Oh, real quick, Ro, were you the one who asked about transitions with like writing characters and like not necessarily head hopping, but transitioning within a scene to another character? I think you were. Let me know if you were last week. I just because I found the document I was searching for to talk about the transitions, and I have it up. So before we leave, I really want to show that to everybody because it's just it's a quick exercise example that I did to show transitioning without with markers. Scratch to finish. Mercy buckets for the compliments. Yes. Hey, listen, I'm when it comes to art and creativity, the fact that just coming up with an idea is difficult. So I know how hard it was to do what you did. So just know I'm proud of you. All right. The progression compares. Oh, the progression. The protagonists. I know I'm wearing my glasses, so I apologize. My age is showing. What is that? Okay. Oh, sorry. Did you see my nose holes? You could tell a lot about a person with their nose holes. All right. That's what me and my friends always say to each other. I go, I know you're lying. I can tell by your nose holes. All right. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do here is actually Laura decides to step out of the cell and check out the area. All right, so that's how we'll end plot point 11, I should say. Yeah. Plot point 11. So this creates narrative momentum. It specifically tells us she's doing something. And now because she did that, let's get to the resolution where she's Laura Olivia is walking around the cell block. I think it's one word. Cell block area filled with people. Now remember, we seeded the potential fight because in 11 right here, where is it? This thing right here, right? So we seeded the fact that somebody is like, yo, I don't like you. So while Laura Olivia is walking around, taking note of people, etc., she notices the person from the cafeteria. Ugh, did I spell that right? No. Cafeteria. Cafeteria. Un caffè con latte, por favore, no con zucchero. All right. Grazie. Okay. Por favore. Okay, she notices the person from the cafe who gave gave her trouble from should actually trouble in cafeteria, and they're staring right back at Laura. Okay. Laura tries to avoid the glare, moving away and trying to get back to her cell, but the person catches up to Laura and pushes them over a bunch of other people playing a game. Make it up for this world. Something people People would be crouched over or leaning down to play on a hard surface. All right. By the way, that's another example of world building, right? I'm not really going into specific details, right? Because remember, we don't go into crazy specifics right now. But I've now given myself an opportunity to create a game. I don't have to worry about the crazy rules of the game, but I can start when I get to this moment when I'm writing, I can start thinking to myself, "Oh, are they playing a dice game?" But wait, it's science fiction, so maybe instead of dice, it's a new thing that is like dice, but they're called whatever, blue bloobs, right? Oh, he's throwing his blue bloobs over the cross, right? Oh, he landed on a snag, right? But the point is, you don't have to explain that stuff. Remember, like in Star Wars, they don't explain what droids are. They don't explain what the droids are being washed in. They don't explain how the lightsaber's made in the first three movies. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you don't have to always explain world building, but showing the world that isn't narratively important to moving it along helps create the lived-in world. So they'll readers will just get a quick glimpse of them playing that game, and that's enough to be like, oh, the world lives beyond the story that we're telling, the narrative we're telling. Anyway, all right. Laura gets up slowly and tries to leave again, but now the people she fell over are up and causing an issue. All right. Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the first three movies, they didn't explain anything about the Clone Wars. They just, oh yeah, it's in the Clone Wars. Your father and I, we fought together in the Clone Wars, and that was it. But that is world building. That's 100% world building. So you don't have confidence in your reader to know to understand enough that things exist, like history exists. It's the old saying, like, oh, you got to dumb down your story because people are stupid. No, people are very smart. They can feel and understand, especially if you're seeding, especially if you're doing the groundwork, that if some comes up, like if they're like, oh yes, like the war of 14-8, you don't have to explain the war of 14-8. But if it affects the characters, it's their emotional connection to saying 14-8. You know, like how veterans might deal with something. Like if you talk to somebody about Vietnam, and then they're just like, I don't want to talk about it. Well, you know, Vietnam was bad then, right? You don't need to go into details. So, all right, Laura gets up slowly and tries to leave again, but now the people she fell over are up and causing an issue. Laura gets pushed around and finally lands in the hands of the person who started it, causing a big fight. And the cell block explodes into violence. You're not home anymore. All right. Yeah, it only took 27 years. And I still don't think we know. But also, I like that. See, that's the thing. Like, I'm not a Star Wars fan really anymore because a lot of reasons. Though Mandalorian almost brought me back. I'm a massive fan of the mythology of Star Wars because it's so, especially if you've read like the books. Like I like the older books and the extended, you know, like all that stuff where like Luke ended up finding out that the Emperor was cloned in a tower, and he went and fought, and then the Emperor seduced Luke to the dark side, but Luke was really turned to the dark side so he could try to infiltrate the Dark Lord and defeat him that way. But then like his sister had to come and save. Anyway, all that stuff is great. But I love the lore, like the mythology of Star Wars, way more than I like Star Wars now as an adult. But it's that grand scheme of things, like that, right? And the idea of 27 years later, what I'm getting at is, like, when you're writing a novel, remember, if you're writing a book and it takes place 27 years before, say, book 6, right? Just to see that journey, right? Because here's the other thing. All your books should be able to be read isolated, well connected to the greater scale of a series or a saga. There should be a complete story, right? A complete narrative. So if someone picks up book 6 and it starts talking about 27 years ago when the fall of blank 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 happened, and then they go and read book one and like, oh my god, it's like it just adds so much more to the experience as a reader, and as a writer you get to say, oh look, everything is connected, anyway. All right, so now we got to do, by the way, Laura Olivia getting beat up is definitely a juxtaposition. I just want to put that out there. All right. All right. Her emotional state would be that she needs to get out of here now. All right. So let's do this. We're going to just jump into the Laura Olivia is tossed into a holding cell. The room is only, let's say, 4 feet by 4 feet. Or is it 4 hands by 4 hands? Okay, that was stupid. Don't treat your audience like an idiot, but leave a few breadcrumbs to lead them along. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Yeah. That's where the show sometimes tell theory comes in. I don't believe in show don't tell. I believe in show sometimes tell. And it's because you have to have context is more important than anything in the world. I'll be honest with you. You need context. All right. So Laura is tossed into the holding cell. The room is only 4 feet. By the way, I think this could fit as one chapter, but this might turn into such a grand experience, even if it was, say, 1,500 words, that the emotional through line of this moment of plot point 12 might be so intense that I want to make it just its own chapter and not necessarily a scene within a chapter, and then allow this moment to resonate through its own chapter, even if it's a shorter chapter. So that's the other thing you should be doing as an author, is making those choices. You're a writer, right? And that is what being a writer is, making choices. And in this situation, what it's doing is allowing me to control the pace of, we had an aggressive moment, it was high impact, and now we get to kind of sit in that emotional turmoil. And it also gives the reader a chance to say, all right, I just read something crazy in a fight. I just finished the chapter. I get to close the book. I'm going to come back. And then when they come back, it's slowed down. It's relaxed. Not relaxed, but it's we're now in the emotional truth. And now we can kind of sit in that. So that's another thing to think about when you're working. I talked about that earlier, so that's why I was bringing it up again. All right. Let's see. The metal floor is cold and damp. Laura can hear the running waters of name underneath the prison. Right, this water fuels the energy needed to keep the prison running. However, that might never come up, but I'm writing that for myself and world building as an idea to be like, all right, I get it. And remember, not all stuff we write or all ideas or even the history of things need to necessarily be placed into the book for the reader to know, but it's good for us to know because it adds an approach. So now that I know that the prison is ran by water, how does that help me? Well, when we get to the prison, now that's a detail I can include, right? I can include the running water in the beginning as well. So there's continuity over the course of the chapters. Maybe at night, if I write a scene where she's sleeping or whatever, the continuity of the water being heard. Whatever the point is, if I know something, it allows me to add some realistic continuity. The screams and loud bangs are overwhelming to Laura Olivia. Okay. And there is no window, just a small light above that is flickering. This is a really nice environment, is what I'm saying. Okay, so now that she's there, we have this. There are a lot of screams. We did that. Okay. She curls up tighter, covering her ears. Okay. Now, to break her mind from the experience, she thinks about her romance novel, which leads her to think about the love interest, and she disassociates from the horror. Okay. It's all right. The sound is too much for her. Laura lies on her back because she's a human. I believe lays is to place something down. Lies is for a human. Laura lies on her back, staring up at the flickering lights. Okay. All right. Her mind goes numb. It's far too much for her. And it leads her into the fantasy romance world of her mind, where she's with the love interest and they're living a more normal life. She changes that mid experience and makes it more about them breaking her out of the prison, being sorry that she got caught up in all this, and they get her and they have a nice romantic moment that leads into lovemaking, but that's cut off by screams and banging. Okay. Oop. Laura turns back to her side, curling up, covering her ears, and crying. Okay. Here we go. I think I did it. I think I did 12. Beep, beep, beep. Okay. So basically, this moment is definitely a juxtaposition because ultimately she is out of her environment. She is not free. She's not in a sense of possibility. Remember, because she was a transporter, she got to use her ship to travel throughout space. She was more, and I'm definitely going to write her more optimistic in the beginning, where she's like lighter and brighter and, but down to earth in the sense of like, because she's a hopeless romantic, right? And she wants to write she wants to be a fantasy novelist, So she has that kind of thing. So this is actually also a really nice character experience because will this break her? Will this take away her hopeless romantic mind? Will it take away that chance of fantasy? All those things. So this is a good character moment because we are challenging her positions, her stance on life, her free spirit, her love for things, her hope for things. And we're now putting her in a situation that's completely not who she was in the very beginning. It doesn't mean she's changing completely, but it means that she's being pushed to potentially change. So those are other things that are really good to think about as an author is how do these scenes challenge the character that has been established up to this point? And will they change completely, somewhat, or not at all? If they change completely, it doesn't mean like I go from a Jets fan to a Jets fan. It means that the reason I become a Jets fan is for something very specific. It isn't that like I hate the Jets. Oh, you know what? Actually, you have a good argument. I love the Jets now. They are the greatest team. I've used this example before. It's you're in a relationship and their family loves the Jets. You're a Giants fan because of your family, but you really love this person. And you want to make the relationship work. So you start kind of getting into it and you end up liking the Jets because of this relationship. And that's an example of completely changing. It has a very specific misdirect and it's not just because, right? The other thing, if they don't change at all, they double down. So if I don't like the Jets, which I don't, and somebody challenges that position for me to like the Jets, the double down means they just go in harder. They just the Jets, right? The only reason people even go to the Jets stadium is because the Giants play there. Anyway, however, if they change somewhat, it means that they're willing to listen. So those are important elements. All right. I said we were going to do 10, 11, and 12, and we did. This is the opening of Act 2. We have set up the new world. We got her firmly in the prison, right? We learn a little bit about her and the other character, which is important for later because we get the communication device. And then we put her into a situation which is a complete juxtaposition of her life, which is going to lead us to next week, where we are going to do 14, 15, and 16. So plot 13, 14, 15. That is going to be the buildup to the midpoint conflict, the actual midpoint conflict, and then the consequences or results of the midpoint conflict. So if we're looking at, this is basically, if I was to break it up, if I could break it up. All right, so there you go. So that should be exciting. This will be the mid of the book. This will be where the stakes are raised. This particular plot point, which should be 14 right here. So let me do this just so it's there. We'll try to do those 3 next week. Basically, this one right here will be the truth of the lie is revealed. And the truth of the lie is always going to be whatever the character believes up to this point is challenged, and there is a truth revealed that disproves the lie or adds something to it that the protagonist didn't know. I just came in. Am I late? I was working on my family tree for my main characters. Family trees are awesome for writing out for your characters. That's great. It's not that you came in late. You are late, but look, you could always go back and watch. However, you have made it to the floor is yours. So to everyone watching, if you have any thoughts, questions, you want to talk about something, if you just want to chit in the chat, feel free to. The floor is yours as authors. While you are all thinking about what to ask or talk about, or however, let's go over a couple things. First, if you haven't done so already and you're really loving this series and you've seen other videos, please subscribe. The likes, the comments, and the shares so help this channel. I'm at 134 watch hours remaining before I hit 4,000. And if anyone knows what that means, it means that the AdSense for the views will start coming in. Oh, L. When I finish Act 1, should I do a fast read through it before starting Act 2 or just keep going? I haven't written much this week and feel like I'm out of the loop a little with concentrating. I recommend doing that. So go back to Act 1, read through it, take some notes. Okay. Don't do a lot of adjusting. Just take some notes for now. For a few things. One, what do you need to make sure it gets challenged in Act 2, but also what you could add and fix in Act 1 so all those chapters sort of make sense together, right? The other thing is, as you'll see as we go further and further, I technically will, and I've kind of done it with the outlining too. I go a little ahead, I'll do a chapter, and then I'll go back and seed stuff. So that's also important. But when you're done with Act 1, yeah, it's always good to kind of go back. Read it in rhythm, though. Read it in the 3, if you're doing it with the 27 plot points. Read plot point 1, 2, and 3 chapters all together and try to be like, all right, do they work? Are they cause and effect? Are they making sense? Is there residual stakes and tension, or is there results? And then how does that influence the next 3 plot points, which would be 4, 5, and 6, and then do the same thing. Do 4, 5, and 6 work together? So those are some of the other notes you should be taking when you do that. And by the way, if you're not able to concentrate and write into Act 2 or write, that's always, just for every writer out there, it's always good to go back and read your stuff and take notes. Because writing isn't always writing. Writing is working on the narrative. It's thinking, making notes, writing out stuff. I organize things. You'll see that as we continue. I organize all my information, all my characters. It's a must to do. Oh yeah, it's a must to do for sure, for sure. On Father B's chapter. Oh, I'm coming out of the loop a little with concentrating on Father's Bees. Yeah, yeah, I get it. Yeah, so I hope that helps. But yeah, it's never a bad thing to go back and read and take notes. I would recommend not doing a lot of heavy lifting though. Like, don't worry about like adjusting a ton of stuff because that is coming. And it's better to wait because as you get Act Two done, and then you do the same thing and read Act Two, you could then go back to Act One and be like, oh, I could seed all these elements that I realize need to be seeded. And the same thing when you get to Act Three. I was concentrating on that. I mean, oh, I see. You're working on that primarily. Okay. How can you tell if you're done? Oh, sorry. That was my dyslexia. How can you tell if you've done too little or too much brainstorming before you proceed to the plot points, steps, and character arcs? A good rule of thumb for are you doing anything too much is that nothing is getting done. If you are not moving forward, if it becomes stale, you're definitely been doing that thing for too long. Like if I'm working on this outline and it ends up being like let's say 6 weeks of me just working on the first act, I know I've been too long. I should just stop what I'm doing and go to Act Two and just keep it moving. Because at the end of the day, you're always going to go back. You're always going to have to add stuff. You're always going to have to adjust stuff. So that's the other reason I don't really fuss too much over the little details or the specific details. I like the broad movement and then slowly but surely build the specificity of things because it's just going to get more refined as you move forward with each draft, with each adjustment, with each read through, whatever the case may be. So it's the same thing with brainstorming. If your brainstorming is just becoming loads and loads and loads of dumpage, there is a certain point where it's like, how long have I been working on this for? Have I been doing this for 6 weeks and I'm still brainstorming? Like maybe I should start trying to put stuff into the plot points and all these other things because you might learn more by working out the narrative than you would brainstorming, if that makes sense. I mean, again, if we look at real quick, if we look at boop, boop, look, I didn't brainstorm that much. I think we did one day of brainstorming. Things like I did, and I got 6 points of brainstorming out of it. Like brainstorming is great for get out everything you can from your head, but when you have to start thinking about it, that's when you might be ready to move on to the next step. You know, hey, what's up, Nicole? I love when Nicole's around. Nicole Pierman. Yeah, so I hope that helps. Yeah, you know, there is a certain point where you got to say to yourself, I got to make the choice and move forward. But also, you know, like even I forget who said it. There is an author who said it, but I kind of loosely mentioned it. But ultimately, when you're like thinking about stuff, the moment you have to think about it, you've reached the end. Like move on to the next step. Because the next step might help rejuvenate ideas, it might move you forward. And all that means is if brainstorming is the first step and character arcs are the second step, well, I brainstormed and now I'm thinking like, what other things could I add to the brainstorm? Well, maybe I hit my limit, so let me go to character arcs. Now you're thinking differently, right? And that change in the brain helps your brain get activated again. And now when you're working on character arcs, you might start going, oh, and be enlightened, right, and inspired, and you can go back. You're allowed to go back to the brainstorming. There's no rule that says you can't. And then you go, oh, this character arc just made me think of all these other things. Then you go back to brainstorming, and you go until you have to think again. And the moment you have to start thinking about stuff, go back to character arcs. You know, same thing with character arcs. Once you finish and you're like, I don't know what else to do with the characters. Move to short form outlining. Start putting the character arcs into the 27 plot points. You know, it's always good to listen to yourself. You know, if you have to put more work into it, it means that maybe you drain the well a little bit and you got to let the well build up again. So move forward, you know. Anyway, sorry. All right. Any other questions out there? Any other? Well, we're on the topic. I want to go over the fight transition thing. I found it, and I think it would be fun to sort of just look at it and kind of give like a quick lesson on what I was talking about. Do 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 do. My nose is itchy. My nose is itchy. I hold a Mario. All right, so I did this as an exercise to show transition through a narrative movement, camera work, all those other things. So it's not considered head hopping, but you can transfer a POV to another character through action, and this is basically how it works. So I'll read the first name. So Jessen fought through with a pounding rush of enemies, his sword a blur of motion in the midst of a chaotic melee. The muddy ground beneath their feet challenged his balance as swords clashed and shields held strong. Swift arrows flew over his right shoulder, finding their marks in the enemy, locked sword in sword with Jessen. He glanced back with a shocked nod and approval at Solara, who rode her horse without hesitation into the heart of the fray. And then this, we've talked about narrative, logical narrative movement. This is the logical narrative movement to switch to Solara. So now we get her experience because she's running with the horse. Solara continued her relentless onslaught of arrows until the last one left her bow. Several men fell to the ground, each with an arrow in their eye, another in his neck, and the last holding one in his chest. She tossed her bow to the side, drawing her dagger, her sight set on the oncoming soldier riding horseback. She leapt with grace, dismounting the man with a blade through his throat. The man fell to the ground lifeless as she skillfully maneuvered in the saddle, right? Oh, what do we got? Oh, we got more stuff. So now she's on the ground. So we move the camera to the ground, and then through the chaos, Javier moved with unwavering determination as he watched the body fall from Solara's passing. So we are connecting. We are doing a reverse connection, right? Because the body fell, right? The body fell lifeless. Okay. And then Javier is moving around that body. His towering presence crossed over the fallen gift from Solara and into a fluid swing of his axe. The stylized head of his blade powered down in a slow crashing motion as his feet crossed the body. His target's eyes lost hope as the axe cleaved through his shoulder, forcing him into the mud and blood of the ground. His relentless onslaught sent shivers of confusion among the surrounding soldiers, carving a path through the blood-drenched battlefield. Anyway, so that's an example of allowing the final sentence sort of to have an action that leads into the next POV. And obviously you want to try to get the name of a character into that first sentence for the transition to hold. And that's just an example of just something I did to show ultimately movement through the POV. It's not considered head hopping because each passage is dedicated to a character. Real head hopping would be, we get feelings and emotions and stuff like that within one passage. All right. But we talked about that last weekend, so I just wanted to sort of go over that again because I know I was looking for it, and I just wanted to sort of pop that out there. What we got here? So, is it okay? It's always okay. Is it okay to do a few chapters with the main three characters, Uncle, and how come an unknown enemy's pawn in his plans, and the rest is with my main Hannah Hart. So let me see if I could I remember I have dyslexia, so sometimes maybe I'm getting confused with things. Is it okay to do a few chapters with my main three characters? Oh, okay. All right. So the main three characters are related, and I guess this other character is the uncle of those three characters. So is it okay? And again, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it okay to do a few chapters with through the uncle's POV and how became an unknown enemy's pawn in his plans? I'm assuming, and again, correct me. I'm assuming the uncle turned the three main characters into his pawn for his plan. And then the rest of the novel is through the main characters. And the answer is yes. You're allowed to do whatever you want when it comes to novels and narratives. You're allowed to do POV switches. You can have chapter. You could go alternate. You could have chapter. So chapter is an uncle, chapter is a character, whatever. You could do whatever you want as long as you allow. And going back to transitions, the chapter transitions make sense. So if you go from the uncle to the other characters, you just have to make sense to the reader whose chapter it is, or who's in that chapter, right? But also that's a really good narrative style to insert information by allowing the POVs, or it also creates narrative irony or whatever. So what's happening is not only does the reader know something that the characters don't know, but they see that the uncle knows something the characters don't know either. So they're being manipulated. So that's always good. That's always good. So I hope that answers your question. Also, thank you, Nicole. I see Nicole's doing a lot of nice things. She commented on my stuff. Thank you, Nicole. You are rocking it. Oh, you're rocking it. Thank you, Nicole. Nicole's doing great, by the way. She reached the next level of stuff. Her channel's growing. I'm so proud of her. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for Nicole. All right. So if anyone has any more questions, maybe I'll do two more, maybe one more. Let's see what happens. Let's see how complicated the next question is. What else do I got here? I guess that's it. Oh, here we go. The unknown enemy takes over the uncle's body and makes him curse his nephew and nieces with the shattered curse. Fading beauty curse and the lights veil curse. That's cool. The unknown enemy takes over the uncle's body. I like body snatcher stories. And makes him, and therefore forces the uncle to curse his nephew and nieces with the shattered curse, dun dun dun, the faded beauty curse, and the lights veil curse. Excellent, all good stuff. It creates a lot of moral battle because the uncle is not doing it on purpose, and then when it comes out, the nephew and nieces will feel like our uncle's evil, and then it turns out the uncle's not, and then like, how do you forgive? There's a lot of good emotional stuff there. Did you get to check out any? Oh, The Pianist. Yeah, I did. Excellent. She's very good. I watched her YouTube stuff. I like that it mixes like the old style jazz with like a new touch of what do we call it? The today, what's the word for it's not, it starts with a C, I think, whatever. It's very good stuff is what I'm saying. It feels like old vibes with contemporary grooves. Good stuff. Yeah. If Strike Booty is still here, Boogie, I mean Strike Boogie. Check out Hiromi's stuff on. You'd like that stuff. That'd be down your alley too, sir. I could say that at that point in my story at the end of chapter 3, I could say that at that point in my story at the end of chapter 3, just yesterday, and am on my main character story in chapter 4. Very cool. You got a lot written. That's awesome. Kicking butt, as they say. Yeah, keep it going. One word at a time, one sentence at a time, one page at a time. You get there. But I'm very proud of you. 4 chapters. You're on your 4th chapter. There you go. It's nice to see it unfold too. I've been cleaning up some stuff for other things, and my first act is 20 chapters, so it's I'm doing it in 5 chapters at a time. But then you get to see these like small arcs, and I think that's always fun too when you go back and you read your chapters. So, once you get to your 6th chapter, you could read the 3-chapter arcs, just boop, 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 or whatever it is you're doing. Okay. What else? Let's start talking about. Let's start doing all the stuff I have to do here. By the way, some stuff is coming up. What's coming up? Wednesday. Ooh. Oh wait, we got some more stuff. We got some. I'm noticing that I'm making mistakes as I'm typing. No judgment here. I can't spell. I have dyslexia. You're allowed to make mistakes. Mistakes don't make somebody less valued. I assure you. This Wednesday, which will be 3/26 at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. New video will be writing advice, embracing rejection, how setbacks can fuel your writing journey. Then on Friday, this Friday, 3/28, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the first video in Creating a Language series begins. That'll be every other week, every other Friday, whatever. The first video on that series starts. Those are pre-recorded. As far as next week's live videos, on Saturday, writing advice and mentoring series. We will be talking about the 5 mistakes writers make in their career. So it's going to be more business oriented, but it'll give a sense of how to approach your career. And then, of course, we will continue on with the next video in the Write a Book series with me. And every Saturday, Sunday is ultimately 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I'm really excited to keep this story going. So hopefully we'll get 13, 14, 15 plot points, 13, 14, 15 taken care of next Sunday. That should be a lot of fun. By the way, if you have questions on things and the live ends or whatever the case is, or you thought of something because of the video, feel free to ask the questions in the comments, because I as Ro knows, I respond to every comment as best I can. If I see the notification, I definitely respond to those comments. So if you miss your opportunity to ask me in real time, don't feel like I can't get to it. I'd be happy to get to it in comment form. In the comment form. All right. Is that it? How long have we been doing this for? Ooh, now I'm 42 minutes. All right. I guess we're good. There's no more questions. Nobody. Bueller. All right. If you haven't done so already, remember, support one another in the community. If somebody has a YouTube channel, please subscribe to their YouTube channel. It's always good to comment, like, and share everyone's stuff. Remember, there's a Facebook group you can go to on for the right mindset. That is, it's private too, so no, we don't spam in there. If you didn't know, makearightleftheere.com. That's my website. Do you have what it takes to make a right left here? Do you? And you could see everything that's going on there. Oh, all right. Yeah. Ciao, Bella, Angela, and sayonara. Hasta luego, arrivederci. We are out of here. I had a lot of great fun. Again, L to you, much love. Thank you again for being a part of this adventure. Roy, everyone else. I'm really grateful and thankful for the continued support. Truly, I just know it doesn't go unnoticed. You don't just show up and visit, and I don't think about you guys. You're here. DK, everyone, bye. Let's do it. Let's get out of here. As you know, I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. This is The Right Mindset, and keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time.